ended up on unemployment. I did the severance package that they offered just to try to figure it out, get on my feet. And I was like, what am I going to do? And I ended up actually at a call center that I took. And just because I needed money, I was on my own. My mom and dad were already left the city. So I was just like, I had to survive.
So I'm super excited because we have a special guest today. We have Sarah, the one and only, who happens to be my esthetician and my daughter's esthetician. So I want to just jump straight into it. What got you into this career of being an esthetician? Like, what is it and what inspired you to be an esthetician?
Yeah. So, honestly, my dad really, I was thinking about this question before. I feel like I knew you were going to ask this. My dad is the one that really got me into skincare. He had really bad acne growing up. He was made fun of. He was like called pizza face. Like just kids are so mean, you know?
Yeah.
And he was always afraid that like his, kids were going to have that because acne and those type of skin issues are definitely like genetic, a lot of them are genetic. And so, he was just always very on top of us with washing our face. Anytime we would like play outside and come in before dinner, he's like, wash your face. Like it was always like wash your face before it was wash your hands.
Yeah.
And I think he was just always so concerned about that. And then that just kind of, snowballed into him just buying anything he could that we, could get our hands on, to have good skincare growing
That's
up.
awesome.
And then, my mom always had really beautiful skin. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I would admire her, would watch her and all that, but it was mainly my dad that was always like drilling it in my head. Like, just always have a clean face, always take care of yourself.
I would have never thought that. I would have never thought like your dad inspired you to become an esthetician.
He's like my biggest fan. No, really,
awesome.
It's so cute. And so from there, I think I just started developing my love for product and just trying new things. And then I was always really into just trying like skincare masks. And then eventually when Instagram became a thing, I would kind of do little reviews on like skincare and just super fun, like honestly kind of influencing before influencing was really even a thing.
Yeah, right.
And so, I would just review. And then that just kind of, I started like building rapport with people online and be like, hey, I know you're super into skincare. I'm really struggling with this. Do you have a product you could recommend? And I'd be like, yeah. And so I'd spend hours researching something for this one person for fun, for free. And then
you sound like my daughter, Sarah. You sound like my Sarah. That's all she does.
And then eventually just like after I graduated high school in 2011, I went straight to DSUB and I was just pursuing a college degree in psychology. I wanted to be a marriage family therapist, just something that at the time I'm like, this will be good money, not knowing in the future, like that really would have been great if I stuck with it, being a therapist.
Yeah. Which
anyways,
you kind of are. You kind of are. Like, we'll talk about that.
Exactly. And so, so after that, I was in college and I just was like, wasn't for me. And I knew that from a very young age, but I was first generation. I really wanted to be that kid that graduated from college. I wanted my mom to see that. I wanted my dad to see that. Like I wanted my siblings to see that. And that was something that was on my mind. But as I'm
the oldest?
I'm the oldest of three. And as I'm going through those motions and I'm going to school, I'm just like, I don't like this. This isn't for me. But I was just kind of going through it. And then somehow skincare and sitting down in front of the mirror on my little beauty table and just doing my routine just provided me such peace and comfort and just like that little time for myself. And that just grew this passion and this love. And then just sharing that with everybody else just really kind of.
That's awesome.
It just was a domino effect after that. And
That's
then
crazy.
I became kind of like that go-to person that people would ask, hey, what can I use? You know? And then one day it's an acquaintance, honestly, not even really a friend. She was like, Sarah, what are you doing? You need to be an esthetician. And I'm like, I honestly didn't even know. I was almost like, what is that? Because it didn't even really register to me.
Yeah.
And she was like, you are so good at just being on camera and telling people about your skincare love. And she's like, you can make money and you can work for yourself.
Yeah.
And at the time, little did she know, I had just got let go of my second
Mm,
job in like a year. I was on unemployment. I was just not in like a very good space in my young
yeah.
20s. I'm like, there has to be more to life than this. Like I'm
Yeah.
literally 21 and I don't know what I'm doing. All
Yeah.
my friends are graduating college. I dropped out. Like what is there for
Okay, I
me?
want to talk about that because
Yeah.
that's one of the things that I kind of, it's kind of been like a focal point on this podcast, like education, like, we're trading time for money, most of us, right? In
Mm-hmm.
in this life. You're either going to work for someone, so you have to put in the hours to get a paycheck, right? Or
Yeah.
you work for yourself, which is also time,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a different payout,
Yeah.
right? So one of the questions that I've been asking, and I want to hear your thoughts, is, knowing what you know now, would you have still gone to college? Would you have done something different?
Yeah. I definitely think the time that I had in college provided me a lot of experience in
Hmm.
just time management.
Sure.
I'm like still to this day, like really big procrastinator. It's something that I'm like always going to be working on.
Habits.
I feel like if you don't develop those habits early,
Sure.
they're just so hard. And I mean, they're
Right.
not impossible, but they're just really difficult to do
Yeah.
later on. But when it came to college, I definitely was just like, this isn't for me.
Hmm.
I appreciated my time there. It was fun. I learned a lot of, just random things that I'm sure I can apply later on in my life. But when it comes to career, yeah, I was lost
Right.
there. And then I knew right then and there, I was like, I I have to work for myself. If I'm
Yeah.
not going to
Yeah.
go, because really at the time, I'm like, if I don't go to college, I don't get a college degree, then I'm going to be probably like, a glorified office assistant and
Sure.
I'm never going to move up. Like there's going to be a cap for me.
Right. Right. Right.
And that was not something I ever wanted for myself.
At what point did you know, or were you aware of, you becoming an entrepreneur? Like, oh shoot, I work for myself and I'm an entrepreneur. Or did that word even ever come up? Or
When I got fired from my first job,
okay.
I never in a million
Okay,
years.
what job did you have? I'm curious.
I was like a scheduler at
Okay.
a
Appointment setter?
yeah, what is it?
Call center?
Physical therapy place.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a physical therapy place. And that was the second physical therapy place that I had worked at. I
Hmm.
actually left one place, took a pay cut to work at this place for other reasons.
Yeah.
And I ended up getting let go within like the 90 days, but pretty much it was a fire. Like they basically hired
Yeah.
two girls at once.
We're gonna let you go in a little bit here.
Yeah, and they're probably like trying to figure out like who are we gonna keep. And unfortunately, I was the one that ended up getting the
Yeah.
boot. And I was devastated because I'm
Yeah.
like, never gotten fired before. I've always been an amazing employee. So I've been told, like, I've always been a team player and just the things that they were sitting. I mean, I don't know if you've ever gotten fired before, but it is like
Yes.
not a fun feeling,
Not at all. Especially, I'll tell you my story real quick, but
Yeah.
I'll let you finish.
Yeah.
And I'll
And
tell you.
so when I left with my final check in hand, everybody looking at me as I'm walking out of the building, just
So awkward.
so awkward. So just never something I ever thought a
Yeah.
position I would be in. I went into the car, I cried, I called my mom, I called my boyfriend, which is my husband now. And I was just like, I can't believe this happened to me. Like, what am I going to do? So, in the lowest of my lows in my young 20, barely 21 years of life, I was like, there has to be something out there for me that, like, this will never happen. Like, I don't want to
Dude,
rely on
but if
someone.
that doesn't happen, like,
Hmm.
the worst thing that you could possibly imagine was like the best thing,
Yeah, because it was. I mean,
because you would have been stuck. You would have
yeah, I mean,
had an
after
employee
that,
mindset.
like I had mentioned earlier, I, ended up on unemployment. I did the severance package that they
Yeah.
offered just
Yeah.
to try to figure it out, get on my feet. And then I was literally looking at in the newspaper,
Mhm.
like for jobs. And I was like, what am I going to do? And I ended up actually at a call center that I took. And just because I needed money, I was on my own. My mom and dad were already left the city. So I was just like, I had to survive. So it was one of
Yeah.
those things where it's like, I didn't have the option or the pleasure to just kind of mosey around and see like what was
Sure.
going to come. Like I had to go and find a job because like I had bills to pay.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
mom and dad were like, you didn't come with us and move to Hanford, figure it out, babe. And I did, and I had to. So
Yeah.
I think being in that low part, catapulted me into like getting my brain going of like, okay, what am I good at? What do I love? I actually like drew a Venn diagram.
Mm.
Like the one thing that I took from high school. I
Okay.
literally wrote the pros, the cons, and then what could be gathered in the middle that like I can find this common ground of like what to do. And
Yeah.
so just writing all of just like everything about myself, trying to see what will come meet in the middle that I can like utilize, put into my life and move forward with. And
Sure.
somehow it all ended up coming back to being an entrepreneur, working for myself.
It's awesome.
And that's kind of what happened.
Here you are.
And here I am. Yeah, I'm so glad
Amazing.
they fired me.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'll share mine real quick.
Go for it.
Don't share this one too often, actually. So it's interesting that we even brought it up. But I was a college pastor right out of college. I studied philosophy theology and right away got into ministry. And it was almost like a dream job. A professor had come and taught a class, and I was just like, I almost had like a crush, like
Like
this.
a calling,
This is
huh?
like, dude, like I would love to work for this guy. You know,
Mm-hmm.
amazing theology. He just seemed like a really cool guy to work for. You know, and I told him, he goes, actually, I have an opening for a college pastor, which I did when I was in seminary in Pasadena. Blah blah blah. So, long story short, we connected, and I got hired as a college pastor intern. I'll fast forward like a year and a half, 2 years later. And this was like right around or after like the economy had crashed, right?
Okay.
So, I was getting paid like 1,000 a month, and I got called in for a review. I was a little nervous. I was like, man, am I doing good? Am I,
Right.
And I got a glowing review. Like, you're doing amazing. Everything you're doing is, we're happy with you. We appreciate you. Good job. Cool. A month later, I got told, we don't need you anymore. At a church. Can you take your stuff out today? It was just like that. And the pastor that had hired
Girl, are
me,
these orders coming from God or
corporate, church corporate.
right?
No, it wasn't even like the lead pastor, it was the executive pastor, the one that does the hiring and firing.
Mhm.
And then I get an email from the lead pastor later that said, like, I heard that it didn't go so well. Like, he goes, I could provide more context. And I was like, yeah, that would have been, that would have been nice. So he provided a little bit of context, but even then, just like whatever. But yeah, that moment, and this was for a church, right? I felt like you did, like, dude, this sucks. Like, I've never been fired before. And the first time I get fired was at a church.
That's crazy. I can only imagine how you feel because you're like, aren't these people Christian? Do they not have a
Yeah,
heart?
I
Like
know, I
you're just all thinking all
know.
these things. I know because when I asked my boss too, I was like, can I ask you why you're letting me go? And he actually really didn't do the firing. His assistant did.
Mm,
So he kind of this was really weird because he actually was sitting in the corner. He looked like he wanted to cry.
mm,
Like almost like this decision really wasn't on his own, but he probably had a chain
yeah,
of command himself.
interesting.
And, when I asked and they told me, or she told me, she was like, no, we just don't really think you're a player. And I was floored because I'm like, no
Yeah,
one has ever told me that in my life. And then that's when I'm like, you know what? People don't know me. They don't deserve me. They haven't even really given me a chance to really show my full potential work
sure.
ethic. I've literally was let go within my 90 days. I
It's
wasn't even
crazy.
here very
Yeah,
long. So that's where, I mean, of course, in the moment, you take it so personal,
you
right?
do. You really do.
But then later on, it really only strengthens you. And
Yeah,
that's what it did. It gave me the confidence to not want to put my life in someone else's hands. So I
yeah.
kind of was like, you know what? If I take control over my life, I figure something out, I work for myself, I build a business, whatever that was to me,
Mhm,
if I fail, the only person I can blame is me. I can't
mhm.
blame anybody else. I can't
Yep.
point the finger, whatever. Like that's on me.
And that's one thing about entrepreneurship people need to know. Like, it's on you,
It's
man.
on you.
You're your own boss. If you show
Mhm.
up late, you'd fire yourself,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Your business
it's your
truly
business.
reflects what you put into it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Mhm.
So we kind of brought up like church and faith, and remind me, you're a pastor's daughter. You're a PK. I don't want to
I
like
am,
label you that, but I know
but
you're.
I am. It's
And
true.
I'm ordained in the church. I'm a pastor still, part time. But even that, man, like, it's just the whole denomination, the politics, the
Yeah,
just
it's
that comes with
so.
that. Yeah, I just
Mhm.
don't like it. I don't like it. Um, but what role has faith played, or even to this day, continue to play in your
Well, I
business?
love this question because when it was during the time when I was really just like deep in prayer and really just trying to ask God, is this the path for me? Is
Hmm.
this what I'm going to do? Because I was still so young that I'm like, make a mistake or it doesn't work out, I can bounce back but I was really hopeful and like that wasn't going to be the case.
Yeah.
And so in that like season of prayer and waiting till God just really put it in motion for me to go to beauty school to get this thing going, um, I just told God, I'm like, God, I know you know what I want,
Mhm.
but I want what you want for me. And I think what you want for me is for this to be in some way, some shape or form ministry.
Sure.
And I didn't really know what that meant, but I knew that this was going to be my ministry in some
Mm.
way, shape, or form. I knew that, when you have a normal job, like when you're working for someone else, there are rules, there are things like you
Can't
don't
talk
talk
to
about
people.
politics, don't bring up religion,
Yep.
things like that. Don't bring up things that like if they matter to me and I want to talk about it, like I can't. It's no, not
I got in
accepted or
trouble
whatever.
in high school at Jamba Juice for saying hi to my friends during work.
Yeah, that's
Like you
crazy.
can't even like,
Yeah.
there's so many
There's so
restrictions.
many restrictions. You never know if your boss or your manager is gonna be cool or chill
Right,
with it,
right.
And
Yeah, a lot
so
of it is the manager.
yeah, but faith is very important to me. My faith is
Sure,
extremely important. God, I will never deny him. Like I will talk about him in any
sure.
opportunity that I could. And so that I knew that I'm like, well, if I work for myself, I definitely can say whatever the heck I want.
Yep.
Right. And like the only thing is like, well, if they like it or not, they'll just not come back,
Right, right.
whatever. But when it came to that, I was gonna be in my ministry. So when I did begin career and I started seeing it was crazy, Pablo. Like there were times where people come in and you do not know what you're gonna get when people walk in and they lay down
Mhm.
on your bed. You don't know what kind of day they had. Just like anything, you don't know what people are going through. I would be sitting there and I would just be talking and I'd be doing the motions of the facials and I would just start sensing this like heavy energy. Like I'm like
Mhm.
this person needs to let something go.
Yeah.
Like they're
Like
they're
there's
coming
weight
in.
on them or
There's
something.
weight on them. They're going through something. So I would just secretly kind of just start praying for them as
Yeah.
I'm talking, right? But in my
Mhm.
head, my spirit is praying for them.
Yeah.
And immediately like this person just started crying. And I'm like in my head, I'm like, oh my God, that was me because I was praying for them.
It was your
And
fault.
it was my fault. But then as I'm talking to them and I'm just like, okay, you know what? I'm like really sensing the Lord right now. Like,
Yeah.
and sometimes I would get a word or I would say something. I'm like, and I was like, oh God, they're going to hate this. They're going to be like, I didn't ask for this. I'm not a Christian or,
Right,
they're
right,
just going to
right.
think of me as like
You're pushing,
some
you're
Bible
forcing something. Yeah,
thumper,
yeah, yeah.
like,
Yep.
some, whatever.
You are. No, I'm kidding.
Right. And so, but then that they will, they came to like, I'm so sorry, I'm like, I've just had a bad day. And I'm like, I understand. And then I don't know, I think I just gave them like a word or I just prayed for them.
Mhm.
And I just, I feel like God in whatever I said, and they were so receptive to it and so grateful. And they were like, I've never actually had someone pray for me because I
Mm.
told them I'm like, I don't want to let you know, like I was praying for you, like as I was talking and stuff, and they were like blown away. And I think because once I saw that and they saw how they received that, it lit something inside of me where I'm like,
Mm.
I don't have to hide this part about me,
No, you don't.
not in my business, not ever at all. And I feel like that's kind of how it began and how faith played a
So
role
essentially, you did become a therapist.
in a way, right? But like, yeah, I
Yeah,
definitely,
yeah.
I pray for my clients. I mean, there's so many things that we talk about in the
That's
treatment
awesome.
room,
Yeah.
and I can utilize that as an opportunity to set up a prayer list, and I do. And when I tell someone I'm praying for them,
Yeah.
I actually pray for them. I
Right.
don't just say
Right.
it to
Right.
say
Right.
it. I think that's so wrong. I think you should actually pray for them.
I'm a pastor. I'm guilty of that.
Right. I'm sure. But like, yeah, so faith is definitely, it's at the
Yeah.
forefront. Without it, I would not have the blessings
Well,
that
that's
I would
awesome.
have
There you
today
go.
for
Like your
sure.
esthetician can be praying for you and you don't even
Yes.
know. That's
Glory to
awesome.
God.
Well, that's cool, man. And I think that's important. For someone young that was, thinking about doing this, like at your age, right, in the teens or early 20s, what should they know about being an esthetician? Like in terms of salary, setting up their business, like what? Give them kind of a rundown and expectation so that they know like what to prepare for if they really want to do this.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, first things first, beauty school does not teach you any business side of the beauty
Apparently
industry
no
at
school
all.
teaches you about finance, apparently.
They
Like
don't.
there's
They don't teach
gotta
you about
read.
finances. Yeah. There might be some schools out there, but not the ones here in
Yeah.
Bakersfield or in
It
Kern
has to literally
County.
say finance school, right?
Yeah. There's like one, I think, esthetician or cosmetology school. I want to say down in San Diego. I think it might
Mhm.
be the Paul Mitchell School, and they have an aesthetic program, and they do teach you the business
That's
aspect
good.
of it, which is great. But I mean, that wasn't my option at the
Yeah.
time. So I went to Lyle's, and even though my instructor was amazing and she taught me everything that she could possibly teach me on the beauty side, the business side was something
Right.
that I had to claw and fight for on my own. And I didn't grow up with many or at all like entrepreneurs in my life. The only ones that I had around me were my in-laws. They have their own business, and so I and my uncle, but his business didn't really succeed in the end. So really, I had no example of what success in a business was.
Right.
I saw failure, I saw other things, and honestly, it scared me. It scared me. But if I could definitely say, you're as a entrepreneur, as a business owner, I mean, you're self-taught
Yeah.
a lot of things.
Yeah.
You have to figure it out yourself. There's really no, I think, easy way to go about it. I
Right.
think it's a
There's no
lot
like
of it.
instruction manual or
There's not an
anything.
instruction manual. A lot of it is trial and error. And even to this day, like I'll be licensed for 7 years in June. And there's still so much that I'm learning about
Yeah.
business, finances, the whole back end of it. But I think if there is someone out there that is young and they want to work for themselves, you know, just find what you're passionate about.
Mhm.
And I really truly believe that when you find what you're passionate about and you turn it into a career, that only catapults you into the direction that you need to go with researching and figuring out how does this, work in my business, or what do I need to do to get here, X amount of clients, or whatever it is that you're doing. I think you just kind of start to figure it out through trial and error. And
Yep.
like for me, I wish I could just be the face and just do the thing and then not worry about all the back office stuff, which
Same here.
luckily my husband does kind of help me with like the
Mhm.
bookkeeping aspect, or, helping me keep
I'm
my
so
taxes
not an
and my
admin
finances.
person.
Me either. I
I
am
hate it.
so not an admin person. Like, but as a solo person, you
You have to
have
do
to
it.
be.
Yep.
You have all the hats, like
Right.
what's that saying? Like I quit my 9 to 5 to work 24/7. That is an entrepreneur
Yeah.
right there.
That's
you know?
yeah. That's absolutely true. And I think a lot of people too want to know. I'm not going to ask you like how much you make, unless you're comfortable with that. But I know estheticians can make 6 figures,
Yeah.
even more, right?
hmm
Can they make more than doctors?
I think that if you find your niche, you find your marketing strategy, you appeal to whatever demographic
Yeah.
or clientele you're trying to reach, absolutely. I
For
really
sure,
don't
right?
think
There's no
there
limit.
I don't think there is a limit. I think what will limit you is your own
Yeah.
work ethic and your own ability to want to go that far or
Right.
not. It's truly like your income will reflect how much you're
I
wanting to
can
work.
I can see you buying your like building one day, because that's the next level, right? Like
Yeah, I've always toyed with the idea of owning my own business or my
Yeah.
own building. I know that these suites that we're working in, like the Solas and the Salon
Right.
District that I'm in, those are becoming really popular. And I think that's
Yep.
probably the better way to go. You have your own subleasers and, all of that. So,
But when you own your own building, you can do whatever you want.
absolutely.
So like when I got this one, like at first I honestly didn't have a vision for it. I was just like, I just need it to look nice.
Mhm.
Then I started thinking about podcasts and offices and like just different, things that I could do with it. I'm like, although you can do anything, like stop limiting yourself,
Yeah.
do whatever you want. It's your building.
Well, earlier you asked me, if I had any advice for young people wanting to do it, get in business or the industry or whatever it is. I really think the best advice is that if you're feeling uncomfortable, that's probably your sign to do it, because you have to be uncomfortable.
Yep.
Like it's going to be uncomfortable.
Very uncomfortable.
It's very uncomfortable. It's a risk, right? You're putting money into it. You're putting time, and you don't know if it's
your emotion too.
your
Like
emotion.
it's like your baby.
You don't know when it's going to pay out. Like for
Yeah.
me, when I started my business, so I was pretty smart, right? Like I realized that none of the other girls in beauty school were, I mean, you don't make money in beauty school.
Right.
So you're just taking them as like the school makes the money. When
Right.
the client comes in and pays, the school makes the money.
Right.
The esthetician does not. But I would ask my instructor, I'm like, hey, can we accept tips? She's like, yeah, that's fine. You can accept tips. So
little tip jar?
I got a mason jar, decorated all cute, put a tip jar, slapped a 20 in there because I'm like, I'm going to put a big bill so these clients know. They're like, oh, someone gave her a 20. Little did they know that was me. But I'm like, but I'm like, I'm going to make it seem like I am almost way more worth than what I am right now, because I'm a student. And so
you created your worth. And that's the beauty about, I think, entrepreneurship. You're creating your worth.
Yeah, you are. You're creating your own worth. You're creating your own value. And, hopefully that you meet your own expectations and then that other people see, they're like, okay, no, for sure. And so, I started a tip jar and all the other girls followed and I started an Instagram and I was like, hey, I'm a student. I'm at Lyle's. I'm just starting this Instagram to just show my journey, something I can reflect back on and look at my work that I post. And then if you want to follow. So by the time I did that, I had, God, I wish I knew how much I had saved, but it was enough I had collected and saved and I didn't spend that tip money at all. I was like, this is going to be to buy product when I graduate, to help me with my businesses, my licenses, whatever it is. Like, this is going to be the money, my first investing in myself, and it didn't come out of my own pocket.
The discipline to even have that, like save that.
And I'm sure like my father-in-law and my mother-in-law encouraged me along the way too, but I really can say I really did a lot of it on my own. I really did have to figure it out on my own because I didn't have very many examples in my life. Right. So I was that like trial and error. And I am kind of like, for me, I'm naturally like, I have to learn the hard way. That's just like my toxic trait. I literally have to fall on my face.
Stubbornness, huh?
Yeah.
I'm the same way.
For sure. And so,
but it's not like there's that many people out there willing to take the time to teach you either. Like that's
and that's the other thing.
Which is why I think this podcast is so important. Like we want to get it out there, like let you know, like, hey, this is what it's about.
Mentorships are so beautiful and they're so important. And I had the pleasure of, being mentored during beauty school by my instructor, Miss Irma. Shout out to her. She's awesome. Great. Cool. And she saw me, she literally would tell me all the time, like secretly, she's like, you're my best student. I've never had a student like you. So getting that validation, seeing like already the work that I was putting in, the little things that I was doing that set me apart from the other girls, that the clients were like, I want to book with Sarah, to the point where I was getting my own volunteers that I kind of had to turn away people off the streets, even in beauty school, because I'm sorry, I kind of already built my business slowly, or people know about me because of my Instagram and all this and that. And so already I think that was starting to encourage me because I just did something that made me uncomfortable. I didn't really want to put my face online. I didn't really want to be out there for the world. I didn't want any of that. But
what's your Instagram before we finish up?
At Skincare by Sarah V.
Skincare by Sarah V. Yes. There you go. So Sarah, if you guys want to reach out to Sarah, make an appointment, ask her questions.
Yeah, my booking link is in the bio, so it's super easy to book.
That's so awesome. I really appreciate you. I feel like you've got so much growth still, and